Another year is almost over, and that means it's time to take a look back at a year in crime and find out who Interpol has listed as their most wanted Americans in 2019. To land on this list, you must have fled the country where you committed the crime. In this case, that's the US, and be requested by your home law enforcement agencies. Not just anyone gets to be on this list, only the most evil and heinous of criminals, or at least ones that manage to slip through the net and flee their home seeking freedom abroad. Number 10. Eugene Palmer. In 2012, Tammy Palmer filed a restraining order against her husband, John Palmer, after a slew of marital problems. At the time, Tammy and John Palmer had been living in a home owned by Tammy's father-in-law, Eugene Palmer. Enraged that his son had been kicked out of the home and was forbidden from getting within 500 feet of it, Eugene Palmer got his revenge. On the morning of September 24, 2019, Tammy went to walk her children to the bus stop, and on her way back, Eugene was waiting in ambush in the woods. He opened fire from afar with his shotgun, hitting Tammy in the arm, then missed with the second shot. Approaching the wounded Tammy, he delivered a close-range blast to her chest that killed the mother of two. Eugene immediately went into hiding, and despite many believing that he died in the woods due to his diabetes and need for blood pressure medicine, the FBI believes that due to his outdoor survival skills, he may still be living in the wilderness of the US or Canada. A $100,000 reward has been offered for any details leading to his arrest. Number 9. Carlos Leopoldo Alvarez. On July 14, 2016, Carlos Leopoldo Alvarez and an accomplice were transporting 32 kilos of cocaine on a speedboat from the Bahamas to Key Largo, Florida. Discovered by a U.S. customs vessel, the authorities immediately gave chase and raced the speedboat all the way back to land. Once hitting land, though, Carlos and his accomplice ditched the cocaine, worth about $8 million, and fled on foot. While his accomplice was eventually discovered and apprehended, Carlos remains on the run. Carlos Leopoldo Alvarez was added to Interpol's fugitive database on August 19, 2019, and remains on the run. Number 8. Wayne Melbourne Littlefield. In December of 2011, police in the Philippine city of Cebu City got an anonymous tip that an American had two young girls in his hotel room. Raiding the hotel room, police discovered Wayne Melbourne Littlefield along with an older girl who was in fact pimping out the unnamed 13-year-old victim to Littlefield. The older girl was sentenced to 15 years in prison for attempted trafficking and has so far served 4 of those 15 years. Littlefield was convicted for both human trafficking and child abuse, getting 12 years for child abuse with sentencing on his trafficking conviction postponed. Unfortunately, while he was being tried, Littlefield successfully evaded the authorities and remains in hiding to this day. Unable to return to the United States, it's believed that he's still likely in the Philippines, though he may have taken a boat to other nearby nations. Number 7. Yusef Abramov. Preying on young girls for an unknown number of years, Yusef was sentenced to 150 years for the rape of a 12-year-old girl in Russia. Convicted of a total of 6 felonies, Yusef has been traveling worldwide and abusing young girls possibly for decades, and has a clear sexual predatory behavior. After arriving in Russia from Los Angeles in 2009, Yusef cornered a 12-year-old girl and then raped her, threatening to cut off her head if she told anyone about what happened. 5 months later, Yusef returned to Russia and abused several other girls. He would return in March when, after believing that the 3 young girls had spoken to the police about him, Yusef, along with 2 accomplices, threatened the girls with a knife and then took turns raping each girl, threatening their lives if they ever spoke about what happened. On subsequent visits, Yusef continued his sexual assaults on at least 2 of the girls. Despite being in custody, Russia still requested Yusef be red noticed by Interpol in case he's ever released early. Although with a 150-year prison sentence, this is unlikely. In Russia, Yusef faces the death sentence, so it's likely better for him he remain in prison here in the US until he dies. Although we wouldn't mind if some vengeful gangbangers gave him their own version of a death sentence. Child molestation is not a popular crime in American prisons, and Yusef was a truly despicable predator. Number 6. Roland Aguilar. On the night of September 26th, Roland Aguilar, posing as an amateur photographer, met with a young model at a local bar. The two spent a few hours together, with Aguilar taking photos of her as she became more and more inebriated. And finally, when she passed out, Aguilar carried her out to his car. From there, Aguilar took the woman to a hotel room, though not before a security officer spotted him carrying the unconscious and scantily clad woman in his arms. The security officer immediately called the police. Upon arriving, the woman was still so inebriated that she wasn't aware of any wrongdoing and thus did not raise an outcry. Unable to do anything about the situation, the police left, and it's either prior to that or after that Aguilar raped the young woman. Eventually, as her memory returned, the woman was also able to piece together what happened and contacted the police. Unfortunately, Aguilar was by now long gone, though the police believe that there are many more victims out there. Number 5. Sunil Ranial. Sunil Ranial is wanted in India for his connection to a plot to kill Indian filmmaker Mahesh Bhatt. It's also believed that he joined in other attempts to kill other prominent Indian filmmakers or actors, and likely had a hand in an intimidation racket meant to eliminate rival filmmakers in India. Wanted for attempted murder, forgery, and extortion, Sunil remains at large, though in 2014 Indian police arrested 13 men believed to be part of his gang. Number 4. John Laitis. Wanted in Nicaragua, 55-year-old John Laitis has a previous criminal record as a registered sex offender. Laitis was also charged with the murder of a 30-year-old woman, whom he sexually assaulted before killing and dumping her body on the side of a road. Later, Laitis was taken into custody by American police forces after kidnapping a homeless pregnant woman, tying her up, and torturing her inside his RV. Laitis sexually assaulted her and physically tortured her for about 12 hours, threatening to kill her if she didn't do what he wanted. In Nicaragua, Laitis is wanted by officials for sexual assault as well as aggravated assault and robbery. Though with a 45-year jail sentence here in the US, it's unlikely Laitis will ever see the light of day again. Number 3. Daniel Leja. A school bus driver, Daniel Leja is wanted by both the United States and Mexico. Arrested in 2002 here in the US for the rape of several minors, Leja was charged with 7 counts of rape. His family, however, put up $60,000 in bail and managed to get Leja free for the duration of his trial. The next day, prosecutors planned to file 21 more counts of child rape and 12 counts of sexual exploitation against him. By that time, though, Leja had already boarded a plane and headed for Mexico, where he has remained in hiding since. Known to be a predatory child abuser, it's feared that Leja is continuing his assaults on young girls in Mexico, and thus authorities in both nations continue their hunt for Leja. Number 2. Horacio Carlos Terán. In 2013, Horacio Carlos Terán went on trial for 5 counts of child molestation, though unfortunately the jury was unable to reach a verdict. Of the 12 jury members, 8 found him guilty, 2 not guilty, and another 2 remained undecided, and the judge was forced to declare a mistrial. Terán put up a $50,000 bail and then promptly skipped out of town, despite the prosecution requesting that he be held without bail. Terán allegedly played a game of tag with 2 young neighborhood boys that they called Monster. Upon tagging one of the boys, Terán would then take the boy to his monster cave in his backyard and tell him to close his eyes. Terán would then fondle the child and have the child touch him as well. Number 1. Willis Gonzalez. In 2011, Willis Gonzalez, along with the rest of his Dominican gang, intervened in what was supposed to be a one-on-one fight between a friend and a man the friend had gotten into a confrontation with earlier. The fight started off with both combatants fighting alone, but soon Gonzalez and other gang members intervened, pushing down the opposing fighter and beating and stabbing him to death. Gonzalez then chased one of the victim's friends and ran him down, fatally shooting him. Other members of the gang were arrested and tried for their crime, but Gonzalez is believed to have fled the country. Today, it's believed Gonzalez is in the Dominican Republic, where he has family ties, and authorities in both the US and the Dominican Republic continue their search for the murderer at large. Another year and another list of Interpol's 10 most wanted Americans. Maybe if you're an international fan of the infographic show, you may recognize some of these figures. If you do, there's a good chance that there's a hefty reward waiting for you if you contact authorities and turn these crooks in. Have you ever tipped the police off to a crime or a fugitive? Let us know in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more great content.